This is episode 2. Really grateful that we get to do this. We get to talk about this exciting season in our church, and this episode we're gonna talk about the past, and specifically the last 14 years of your time at Grand Point. I hope there's some fun stories, but also I would love to hear to start. You know, what's something that if you could sit down with yourself 14 years ago? So I've heard the story a little bit about you considering coming to Grand Point, those types of things. But if you could look at Lawrence 14 years ago, what would you tell him?
Well, yeah, first of all, Mitch, thanks for continuing the story here on this second episode. Before I answer that question, are you okay if I just speak to the audience a little bit? For all of you, people of Grand Point and community, I just want to start by thanking you for affirming and embracing the process that we're on. I think we've had an overwhelming response to this process, Mitch, and the way that we're going about it. And I just thank you for supporting that because it's really inviting you, once again, it's inviting all of you in the journey. So well, to answer that question, Mitch, about 14 years ago, I don't know, I guess there's a couple things that I could say that I learned. One of them is, and this sounds like a sermon topic or a sermon series perhaps, but it's the blessing of obedience.
Okay.
Right. So most of you are aware that Penny and I did not want to come here. We were in Lancaster, which was where we were born and raised. It's where we raised our kids. It's where our friends were. We had a very successful ministry there in Lancaster, and we were invited to come here. We didn't apply. We were invited to come, and we said no. We didn't want to do this. And so over the course of about a year, God was working behind the scenes, obviously, in preparing both us and the church for this. And it was on that day that God used two individuals, Larry Orth and Randy Brenneis, who came to Lancaster and met with me. And it was through that visit and those two guys that God kind of activated a real call for us to come to Grand Point. So we came reluctantly, not with the reluctance of Jonah, but with an obedient reluctance.
Okay.
But
big difference there.
A big difference. We didn't go the opposite direction. But we came here, and almost immediately we recognized the blessing of that obedience. God just blessed us with an amazing home that was just right for us. I was able to step into or God provided a job for Penny. I stepped into a ministry with a great staff, people like Jenny Plum and Christy Bowers, Gene Reineman, Kevin Elworth, a great staff team. I learned a lot from those individuals, and now a whole new staff team. But by far, the greatest blessing that we receive from obeying the Lord to come here is you, the people of Grand Point, the congregation. Unbelievable. We've been so blessed by you, your friendships, your companions on the journey, and there's no doubt at all that we have been so blessed by that. So I think looking back, what I learned and what I would say to anyone that's stepping into something like this, but what I've learned after 14 years is, man, it's just, there's a blessing in obeying.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't feel qualified, even if you don't feel necessarily initially called, if there's an invitation that God is extending for you to step up and step out, do it.
Yeah.
Just do it, because there's a blessing that comes from that. So,
well, and even, you were saying some of the things that I would imagine that as you were preparing and even considering it, you have stuff that you need, right? You have, you mentioned Penny with a job, right? Yeah. Like there were just, and a house, there were things that you're probably in the back of your head going like, okay, this looks enticing in some ways, but there's other things that I need to maybe affirm that this is where the Lord wants us to go. So, in a leadership sense, that's a really wise thing. And I mean, if you could look at your leadership back then, or maybe what you thought leadership was, can you speak to maybe that definition. So 14 years ago, as you walked into this role, what did you think leadership was?
So I don't think my definition of leadership completely changed at all. I always knew that leadership is influence, but I think what I did learn is that when I was a young leader, I felt like I had to do things I had to do. I had to do this, and I had to lead by doing. Now I know that leadership is not doing everything, but it's influence. Leadership is influencing other people to do more than what you could do yourself. And so that's what I would say to anybody that's maybe stepping into a ministry or stepping into this role is be an influencer.
Yeah.
Influence people toward the vision, toward the mission, and you don't have to do everything. In fact, more gets done if you don't.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest change perhaps in my definition. It went from doing to influencing.
Can you maybe give an example of maybe it's something really simple or maybe something that was a game changer for you in that you recognize like, hey, I need to either surrender this thing I'm doing or, I mean, I have a couple things that come to my mind that I know that you've done recently even, but is there something that you can share that has been really healthy for you to lead someone else into doing?
So first of all, it's hard for me because I'm a doer.
Sure.
I love hands-on and I love to do things. And so while my ministry is perhaps divided between administrative things and teaching, preaching, I love it all. And so it's hard for me to kind of release things.
Yeah.
I'll admit that. But I think the greatest thing, one of the greatest things that we did was kind of put together the executive team.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've realized that ministry is a team sport.
Yeah.
Right. Ministry is a team sport. And if you try to do everything yourself, it's not going to get, you're not going to be near successful. So I think when we established the idea of an executive team, we have just an amazing group of people on that team right now that are people who get things done. And so I've been able to step back and have a lot more hands off and actually just see more things happening than if I would have been doing them or being in control of that.
Yeah. And that was probably you came to that decision because you recognized like, hey, we're at a certain size, that there's a certain demand that, you know, I can't have that type of bandwidth to be either making those decisions or so. Yeah, that's super wise. I know another thing that you did recently was with marriage and people wanting. So if you don't know, Lawrence does like almost 20 weddings a year.
No, it's not that many. I mean, collectively, maybe as a staff,
I'm making it seem worse than it actually is.
Yeah, that sounds really good, but I think maybe 9, 10 weddings.
That's a lot of weddings. Yeah. And what you did was you recognized like, so that would be 9 couples that you are, you know, doing life with in this really exciting season. But instead of saying, hey, I'm going to grin and bear this and do it all, you had a team come alongside of you. You handpicked couples, and you're still officiating the weddings, kind of doing that last piece of it. But you empowered couples under kind of your leadership to be able to come alongside people who want to get married and do their premarital and just be their people, which is incredible. Yeah,
again, Mitch, that was a necessary move. It was a hard one because, you know, Penny and I, we thrive on relational equity, right? That's part of the leadership, which is good. And we love meeting with these couples, building the relationships with them. In fact, some of the couples that we've married over the past couple of years have become friends. Yeah. And we've almost been like parents to them. But we had to let some of that go because we could not do that well as with the team that's now doing that. And we have 3 couples who are doing the marriage mentoring and premarital counseling, and they are phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing much better than what Penny and I could have done based on time.
Yeah.
and commitment to that relationship. So yeah, that's another one as well. But I think it is definitely a shared leadership that makes the church healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of leadership health in a little bit, but I'm curious. We're talking a lot about things that are happening on the outside, right? Things that people can see. I want to try to probe you a little bit to talk about what healthy leadership actually looks like from the inside. The stuff that maybe people don't see. Sure. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a very important question, because you can let's just take the physical body, for example. You can be in the greatest physical shape.
Which Lawrence is, by the way.
Well, no, not exactly. But
he's a stud.
So I didn't join Crunch Fitness like the rest of the staff did, but
sure.
I value physical fitness, right? But you could be the most physically fit person on the outside, but if you have cancer on the inside, you're not a healthy person. Right. So even a church or an organization or business, you can look very healthy on the outside, but if you got a cancer internally, it's just a matter of time before that comes crashing down. So I would say healthy church leadership looks a whole lot less like corporate management and a whole lot more like intentional disciple making. Right. So behind the scenes, there's a motivation that you don't really see it, but it will eventually bear that fruit. But internal health is defined by a culture of mutual trust. We've worked hard to develop that within our staff culture, authentic transparency, and a clear distinction between structural authority and I would say relational influence.
Okay.
So there's that balance, obviously, that happens there. But internally, it's about the relationships that you build there. So I would say, internally, it would look more like behind the scenes, it would look more like vulnerability rather than perfection.
Yeah. So
a healthy leader does not have to know everything.
Right.
But you just have to be able to lead with humility. You have to be able to confess your blind spots, be open to admitting your mistakes.
Yeah, that's a big one.
All that stuff is an internal element there that provides health. And I think that internally we even need to apply grace to each other on a staff team as much as we apply grace to the congregation.
Oh,
right?
sure.
So there's all that's there. It's also, we value what we would, I guess we could say, like an internal nourishment. So we talked a lot about this by developing some staff values, but we believe that the internal nourishment, spiritual development of the individual is what's going to produce a healthy congregation as well. So that's characterized by rhythms of rest, physical fitness, obviously, and most importantly, a dependence on the Holy Spirit and on God. So if a leader is not doing that, if a leader does not have a vibrant, active prayer life or time with the Lord, it's eventually going to unravel within the organization. And I think we always look for competencies. Like, we have a very competent staff. That is by design, it's by intention, but even more than competencies, there's that value of character. Yeah. That the integrity, honesty, all those things that are very, very important. So that's kind of the internal look, I guess. Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, like, I'm missing one or more of those. Something that we've found that it takes a lot of work, but asking someone to come alongside you and help you. I've heard, and I've experienced that personally. Like, no one's going to get fired for coming up short in some of these areas if you ask for help, which I think can be really hard to hear in church sometimes, because the mistake I think that people believe is like, well, everybody's got it figured out. Everybody's doing great. Like, you work at a church, so you should be killing it in all these areas. But, we all have different seasons of life. We all have different stresses. And I think one of the
best things that we've done in recent history is defining what those clear expectations look like so that we have a target to shoot at. And then we can celebrate them. Like, we celebrate them when we know they're being done. It is really cool. Like this morning, very cool to see several staff people at the gym, but also other people within the church that we can celebrate each other there. But then to know when we gather as a staff and we huddle, we pray, we celebrate what's going on in the life of our church. We celebrate personal victories with each other. And that's something that I would imagine in the last 14 years, we've probably had different iterations of.
There's certainly been iterations of that, but and I'll just be completely honest with you right now. We have a very healthy staff. And I think internally, we're not perfect. There's always things that we can improve on.
Sure.
But we have a staff team right now that is so healthy that we're able to make significant transitions that are healthy.
Right.
And that's so key, because it all centers on an internal the internal reality.
Yeah.
Like what's really happening internally. And so we do have a staff team that, man, we pray together, we can worship together, we have a lot of fun together.
Yes.
And it's so healthy that it just gives you this confidence to make some major changes and move forward with the process that we're going through.
Well, I don't want to jump over the next couple questions because I want to talk about a phrase that you said in the video that we shot announcing this whole transition. You used the phrase "spirit of sustainability." What does an unsustainable pastor, or maybe even just a unsustainable leader, look like? And have you ever been in a season where you were feeling like the load you had was unsustainable?
Yeah, I think, wow. So every leader needs to have some clear boundaries.
Sure.
Right. If you don't have boundaries, you'll stretch yourself so thin and do so much that it won't be sustainable.
Yeah.
Like you'll lose your mental health, you'll lose your physical health and all that. So there has to be boundaries. And it's one of those things that I understand as a leader. Not everyone understands those boundaries, because a lot of people have expectations, of a pastor's role, and that's not bad. It's not wrong. It's just that in a church of different sizes, those expectations may or may not be met. Mm-hmm. So I can't attend every meeting. I can't go to every Bible study. I just can't be at everyone's home, those kind of things. If I did not establish some boundaries there, I'd burn out.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going through this, succession. I'm not because I'm burnt out. There's just other reasons, as we explained in the last podcast. But I think if we, the same thing would be true for all staff members or even volunteers.
Yeah.
Which again is a concern that we have, because as we grow, it requires more services and more meetings, and we have so many amazing volunteers that give of their time to work in tech or worship teams or whatever. We just don't want to lose them because we've expected them to serve more than what is a sustainable cause. So that's a huge concern, as we grow, because we need to use volunteers because they're the most valuable part of our ministry.
Yeah.
But we don't want to burn them out either. So
I
think for me, maybe the moments or times when I felt like I could not sustain my ministry activity was when we were down a staff person, right? Or the executive team was not complete or whatever. And there was a little bit more responsibility I had in leadership. In addition to the preaching, teaching, and working with the campuses. So I feel like right now we have a very sustainable model. However, with continual growth, it's not going to be sustainable very much longer.
Sure. Yeah.
So, which is exactly why we're also working on some other exciting things that we'll be able to share with you, perhaps in a later podcast.
Yeah, I'm all about those things. So what does it cost you personally to lead well for this long? I'm I don't know what you wrote on your notes, but like I can imagine that, and you know, if you've never been to Grand Point, we have a Saturday night service, and the production team and the worship team show up early in the afternoon, and then we probably get out of here between 7 and 8. So on a Saturday, that's valuable time. So there's probably some things that you say no to often, or have to leave early. So can you talk a little bit about maybe like what that's cost you? And not in a negative sense, like just a reality.
No, ministry at Grand Point costs you your weekend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's what we do, and it's what we thrive in doing.
Oh, yeah.
But weekends are when most people have off. It's when, you know, the kids, grandkids have sports and all those kind of things that we would love to be at. So I realized that going into pastoral ministry, it comes with necessary sacrifice. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But it's sacrifices that we're willing to make for the sake of ministry and serving God's people. But so I would say, you know, to lead well in a ministry, it does take a personal toll on you if you're not careful about some things. So, you know, there's obviously the burden of hard decisions. Now, I don't make all the decisions alone, which is why I say I value the fact that leadership is a team sport, so we make decisions together. But there are decisions that I need to make, and there's a burden of those hard decisions. You also have to be okay with being disliked, and sometimes maybe even misunderstood, because leadership, as I lead for the organization, not everybody's going to understand the decisions that are made. And unfortunately, you don't always have time to explain those or defend those. So there's people who will dislike you. You know, as a leader, you're always being talked about, and you have to be able to handle criticism because that's just a cost of leadership, regardless of whether you're a healthy organization or unhealthy.
Right.
So those are a few things that just came to my mind, you know, as you ask that question. Physical time, sacrifices. Your Saturdays, like I switch gears Saturdays right about noon, where I start thinking about the service, and you know, if I'm working at home or whatever, I've got just a few hours in the morning to do it, and then we switch gears.
Yeah,
you don't have a whole Saturday.
Yeah,
but again, it's where God led Grand Point at this time, and it's one of the things that we are trying to assess, you know, for our future, for sustainability and for you know, the health of the leaders and the individuals. But
and I think too, it's worth noting, like, you know, we all feel that. It's not just one sect of leadership that feels, you know, Saturdays are hard. Even the weekends are long, because even sometimes there's stuff on Sunday nights and stuff other times through the week that, you know, it's not just one person feeling that burden. That's something I really appreciate about our team, is that we're in this thing together. We don't leave each other hanging. We work as a unit. And we accept that mantle, as difficult as it can be sometimes. We know that we are better together when we do that.
Boy, and that's where I'd like to give a shout out to volunteers, because you know, we get paid to do this. Mostly we get paid to do this.
I mean, we're, you know, there's money coming in.
But volunteers, man, they show up, and it just blesses me every time I pull in here and I see, you know, 8-10 cars of volunteers. That I know have been here for hours already preparing and serving. And, you know, it's not uncommon for volunteers to give, you know, 8, 10, 12 hours on a weekend. And that is just admirable. It's just, it's the blessing of being able to be here and see that kind of commitment.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole podcast just about some of that culture where, you know, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I think like feeding your volunteers helps a lot. If you can take some of that stress of, hey, what am I losing by being here? Food helps a ton. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I can't get them to commit, if you say, hey, I'll feed you, I bet they'll be more apt to do it.
Something happens around food, around
Yeah,
the table.
and that's the other thing too.
place.
Yeah, it's a communal thing. So we love that, and that's
Yeah.
that's become a big part of, especially Saturdays, is the dinner. So I want to talk a little bit about, like, we've kind of, we've been talking about what our church has kind of built in the last 14 years of infrastructure. What kind of infrastructure needs to exist so that when it comes time for a transition like this, or any staff, right? One that's more planned, right? What kind of infrastructure has to exist for these types of things to happen without the whole thing collapsing?
So this is absolutely crucial. So the infrastructure has to be systems driven rather than pastor centric.
Yeah.
Right. If it were all about me and if I were leading everything, there is absolutely no way we could go through a healthy transition like this. But and by systems, I mean a good leadership board. We have a great elder team, right?
Yeah.
Strong leaders there. We have an executive team that meets strong people on that team right now. We have a directors team, a team of directors. And so all of this, and you probably recognized I'm using that word team a lot.
Yeah.
Team of elders, a team of executive leaders, a team of directors. All that is what I mean by systems. When those systems are in place and they're working, my goodness, an individual can step out of this and it can still be a healthy process. And so that's where Grand Point is right now. We have very, very healthy systems, great elder team, great executive team, and directors leading ministries. All of that is happening almost apart from me.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully my leadership influence is there, but all that, if it were just all about me, if it were all about the pastor leading everything, attending all the meetings, leading meetings, we would not be ready for a transition. I mean, the church would unravel.
Yeah.
The way that we are set up right now with systems and all that, and again, that sounds so business, but it's the reality of our structure.
Yeah.
And I think it's even biblical to a certain extent where the body of Christ functions that way. But we're at a very healthy place, which means that we're ready to make a very healthy transition.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to unravel. Nothing's going to come apart. And so it also, I think we also have a very clear vision and a clear succession plan, which is also part of the system that we're developing.
Yeah. I think I heard it was like Michael Hyatt, that it was this idea of a 10-80-10 rule, where you have this leader at the top of your org chart, and that's the elders. You submit to the elders, but the elders cast the vision, right? That 10% up at top, and then they task everyone under them, the 80%, to carry out that vision, and then the last 10% is essentially us reporting back to them, and that's through directors' reports and executive reports and things like that, where they can see then how things are going. And if things need to be changed, they can be changed. That's one of the great things about us is, like, we've developed all these systems. And by the way, I know I've been on staff, this summer was 3 years. I've seen so much healthy change in that, like, my title's changed 3 times, like, who I report to has changed a bunch. We're not afraid to try something for a while and maybe be uncomfortable for a while.
Yeah.
But then when we figure it out, it's like, oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah, we're going to evaluate systems at least every 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's just a healthy process.
Yep.
And that simply means that change could happen, titles could change, function could change.
Yeah.
Maybe even positions, because we're constantly trying to improve on the platform of stewardship and effectiveness.
Yeah. So can you, I mean, we talked about this a little bit more, but maybe you can speak a little bit more to this idea of, like, what's the difference between a church that is built on a mission versus a church that's built on maybe, the pastor Like, what are the big distinct differences there?
Yes. So inevitably, people will go to a church sometimes because of a pastor or a personality.
Sure.
That's not wrong.
No.
It's not a wrong thing because people will connect with a certain personality better than others. So sometimes with people even jumping campuses or whatever because of a personality. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if a church bases their or measures their success on how many people come to hear that person on any given weekend,
Yeah.
that's maybe where it becomes different than mission. So if we're basing our succession on a personality, we'll count the numbers of people that come to hear that person.
Yeah.
If we base or measure our success based on mission,
Yep.
it will be different because our mission is not how many people we can gather, but our mission is how many people we can help find and follow Jesus Christ, which means coming to know Jesus and then growing as a disciple in Jesus. So we will then measure a church that's based on mission will not measure attendance as success,
Right.
but they'll measure baptisms,
Yeah.
change lives, how many people are stepping up and stepping out into ministry.
Yeah.
So it's a different measurement of success.
Yeah.
But again, personalities are God-given.
Yeah.
It's not wrong to like a certain person or gravitate toward that, but that cannot be a measure of success.
Yeah.
So that would be the difference between a personality-driven ministry and a missions-driven ministry.
Yeah.
Perhaps how we measure our effectiveness.
So what is the relationship between a leader's humility and a church's long-term health? That's a big question.
It's a big question, but I'd say a leader's humility is, it's the cornerstone. I mean, it's essential,
Yeah.
right, to a church's health. And again, I'm not here to kind of say that or identify myself as the most humble leader. I strive for that, and I don't want this ministry to be about me. I want it to be, first of all, about the Lord, and then about other people as well. But humility drives relational trust within a staff culture, within a ministry. It also drives congregational resilience. We can go through a lot of things if there's a trust there, driven by humility. And then also humility results in a shared leadership.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't have to do everything. I don't have to preach every message.
Yeah.
I love it when other people can do that.
Yeah.
So pride always leads to toxicity, always leads to a toxic environment. And then that results in spiritual stagnation.
Yeah.
So a healthy ministry needs to have a humble leadership team.
Yeah.
So that we're all in this together. We're learners. We're excited about what God's doing. So I think humility also cultivates that culture or that atmosphere of grace that empowers any congregation just to thrive in their ministry.
Yeah.
And so based on all of that, humility is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
It's the cornerstone for a healthy church.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. So a couple more questions here before we end this episode. What's the hardest leadership lesson that you've learned here that you wish someone had told you before you got here?
Wow. I'd say maybe the hardest leadership lesson I've learned, and I'm not sure that's just here, but just in general, is that, oh man, how can I say this? Not everybody needs to think like me.
Okay.
Right? I mean, if everybody thought like me, this world would be an awesome place, right? This
Sure.
ministry would be great, but what I've learned, probably the greatest leadership lesson I've learned is that, no, people don't need to think like me. I need to value I need to value the body of Christ.
Sure.
And different thoughts and different ideas, because there are some awesome ideas that people have had that aren't mine, but they're good. They're better than mine. And so I have to learn that my ideas, my way is not always, doesn't have to be the way it goes, doesn't have to be the best. So again, maybe there's some humility in that, or just a simple recognition, the simple lesson that God has designed the body to be a body.
Yeah.
And every single part has its purpose, and every single part is important.
Yeah.
And so the greatest leadership lesson that you could ever learn is my goodness, it's not about you. It's about the body that God put together. It's about the body of Christ that he has raised up to make a difference in this community and the world around us. So I think that would be my greatest lesson learned.
Yeah.
Because, as a strong leader, I'm an idea person. I've got vision. It's like, it's got to go this way, but it doesn't. It doesn't. So,
and if I could hit on, you mentioned vision, right? Something I really love about our church is that when we talk about vision, I've heard you say this a ton of times. We wait for the Lord to reveal his vision to us. We are not the type of team that we have these big lofty goals and we go out and do them. We do, but the reason that we chase some of the things we chase is because it's what the Lord is doing in our midst. It's not because of anything we see out in the world that we're like, we need to do that to keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
Which I think in church leadership can be a really toxic thing, where you're talking about being influential in your community. You're talking about wanting to have the biggest reach so that more people can know who the Lord is, right? But in some sense, it always comes back to humility. We talked about that.
Sure.
And that's coming from the leadership at the top, right? So when we talk about vision, we are in some churches, some people might even say, hey, you're missing it if you're not jumping on it right away. But for us, it's about confidence in the Lord and trusting that that's what he's brought to us, and not being so quick to be like, because we saw it here, we need to do it, or because someone suggested it, we need to do it.
Yeah. So I'm a part of several cohorts of leaders, and the beauty of that is we do learn from each other.
Absolutely.
But we cannot make our vision what somebody else has done.
Yeah.
Because God has placed us specifically right here in this community.
Yep.
And so when he says, open your eyes and look at the fields, they're ripe and ready for harvest. It's what you can see.
Right.
It's not what someone's doing over there. It's not what someone in another state's doing. It's not what I'm reading in a book, but it's like eyes wide open to what God's doing in your community. And again, that's where I believe Grand Point is right now. We're seeing it, and we're responding to that. And so that's why I'm excited about the next podcast, Mitch, because I think we get to talk a little bit about what God might be doing in the future, and some of that vision that he's given to us. And I am so excited about that and what that will mean for this church. But I would say we don't. So if we talk about big dreams or whatever, those dreams are only, how do we do what we see God do? How do we partner with God and what he's already doing? So it's not dreaming something new. It's just dreaming, how do we do it? Right.
So last question. So for any, and this is, for pastors, but also for leaders, anyone listening to this, what do you think they should understand about what it takes to finish well? Obviously you haven't finished the race yet, but I would say that you've got a pretty good definition of what it means to finish well in ministry.
Yeah, I want to do that. First of all, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And what's enabling me, and I will speak directly to the people of Grand Point or anyone who's listening into this. You play a significant role also in helping a leader finish well, helping Penny and I finish well. And we're excited about taking this journey to finish with you. A lot of people are asking us, what are you guys doing? Are you moving?
Right.
Where are we going and all that? We don't know. But that's part of the beauty of just working with the church as a whole, because we're on the journey together. And God's going to use somebody out there to encourage, to prompt, to speak into our hearts and our lives. It could be any one of you listening right now that's going to give us that ability to finish well or step into the future, right, with a new confidence or a new place of ministry. But to finish well is to, just be able to release our grip on this ministry to that next leader, to the people that are already leading, also surrender to God. I want to be part of that vision that sets this church up for the future. Mm-hmm. I want to be part of that planning and the amount of time that I have remaining here. And like I said, I'm so excited about it. So I'm not giving up. I'm not stepping back. It's just all in until that time where we can make that transition. So I think running the race is keeping your eyes, on the ultimate goal. Yeah. And the goal is not for me to retire. It's not for me to drift off. The goal is to continue building this church and its impact for Christ. And for the kingdom. Yeah.
Man, that's exciting. But like Lauren said, we're the next episode is going to be exciting because we're going to talk about what you're excited about for our future, whether or not we are in a place where we can share some of the things that are being talked about, but also I think highlighting the things that we've been doing that have really allowed us to look to the future with such excitement. So thank you so much for those of you who've been joining in on this journey. If you haven't already, please make sure you like and subscribe this podcast. The reason I'm asking you to do that is because that is what will help other people find it. So just because we tell you about it, maybe on the weekend and on social media, we need a little bit of help from you to help us share what is happening in the life of our church and specifically in this exciting season. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode. We're looking forward to the next one. And you guys take care.